I would like to invite on stage the session chair, Mr. Rajan Sudesh Ratna. We would like to invite our first finalist, Mr. Shishir Sinha. Sir, can we have you on stage, please? We would request Dr. Bana to kindly escort Mr. Madan Lal, MD, Central Cottage Industries, India Limited. Mr. Manoj Lal. Can we have Mr. Geshan, Dissanayake on stage, please? Welcome back, everyone. We now begin session 3, focusing on how financial policies and budgetary allocations can strengthen India-Sri Lanka ties. This session will be chaired by Dr. Rajan Sudesh Ratna, Deputy Head and Senior Economic Affairs Officer, United Nations, ESCAP, New Delhi. We once again welcome Mr. Geshan Dissanayake to share the Sri Lankan perspective. Joining us on panel, we have Mr. Shishir Sinha, Senior Editor, Hindu Business Line, New Delhi. Mr. Manoj Lal, Managing Director, the Central Cottage Industries Cooperation, New Delhi. I now invite the session chair and speakers to lead the discussions. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Let me take this opportunity, first of all, to thank the organizers for giving the opportunity to me to be here and talk. Actually, India-Sri Lanka FTA and the bilateral relationship has been very close to my heart because I was the one who negotiated this agreement way back in 1998 when I was working in Ministry of Commerce. The signing, the problems relating to implementation, that it was signed in 1998 but we implemented only in February 2000, allowing the tariff rate quota on textile and rubber and tea, and then seeing, and also as to how it was perceived in Sri Lanka about the FTA, because definitely the trade was not balanced, it was imbalanced, and it need to happen because if there is a larger country which is having FTA with a slightly smaller economy, definitely the benefits cannot accrue to be the same. But still, the positivity in the policy makers in Sri Lanka for a couple of years after the implementation was really an eye-opener. And there were many initiatives which went even beyond the FTA between India and Sri Lanka. This is a very important topic which we are going to discuss today now, which relates to the budgets and how it can boost the tie between India and Sri Lanka. As you would have also noticed, India has a line of credit for Sri Lanka under which bilateral trade happens on an easier term. And definitely budgets have a lot of implications, a lot of positivity to bring into this. I would not like to dwell much on my fellow panelists. I know they are all very eminent persons who are known, but still, for the sake of formality, I have left to me Mr. Geshan Dissanayake. He is a Minister Counsellor handling the commercial wing in the High Commission of Sri Lanka in India. Right to me is Mr. Sinha. He is a Senior Editor in Hindu Business Line. And my extreme left is Mr. Manoj Lal, Managing Director, the Central Cottage Industries Cooperation Limited from New Delhi. I have certain questions which I will pose to them. But yeah, my first question, if you permit me, Mr. Geshan, I would like to ask you, because Sri Lankan government has also come out with its budget for 2025, emphasizing on many of the sectors, and therefore I would like to ask, is the budgetary allocation in Sri Lanka, which has been done, is support some of the key sectors like tourism, technology, cooperation and collaboration. Definitely Sri Lanka has a popular destination for Indian tourists, and Sri Lanka is looking for global aspirations of bringing global tourists there. So how you think these budgetary allocations could help into these sectors? What are the salient features?
Thank you, Dr. Ratna. I mean, the answer is kind of like a mixed kind of answer, because we are undergoing this EFF facility with IMF. So there are a lot of constraints on government spending and also taxation and exchange rate stability and price stability. So those were one of those conditions imposed by, I would not use the word imposed, but that is the situation. And of course the time of giving these tax holidays and that kind of stuff is no more when it comes to Sri Lanka because of the current situation. So we also have to come up with innovative ways to incentivize and woo foreign investors. So we are also looking at the policy changes which are going to happen, like how creative they can be in that line, because I mean, as per even now this budget also has a deficit bigger than what IMF has indicated. So of course for some sectors we are like tourism, of course they have been allocated, but for others, of course, it's not that not to the desired amount because of the known reasons. So it's interesting to see what kind of policies our policy makers can formulate to attract foreign investment during this challenging time.
Well, thank you very much for your answer. Definitely yes. Sri Lanka still has a challenging time, and budgetary support would definitely require. Let me go to Mr. Sinha, and the first question which I asked, you may have seen the Sri Lankan government budget and supporting them. But going beyond, while I will wait for your comments on, do you think that the budgetary allocation in Sri Lanka is enough to support those sectors? But how you also see both government, India and Sri Lanka, collaborating with each other and generating funds for development of Sri Lanka?
Thank you very much for joining me, for inviting me. And I have two parts for the question which you have asked. The first one is, I would just like to highlight what the IMF has said in its staff report. That report has been given just 6 days back. So I would just like to quote few lines from that report. It says that Sri Lanka underwent a political transition and presidential and parliamentary elections in late 2024. The new authorities express commitment to the program. Reform efforts are bearing fruit with growth, recovery, low inflation, increased revenue collection and reserve accumulation. By end of 2024, Sri Lanka's real GDP is projected to have recovered about 40% of its loss incurred between 2018 and 2023. Nevertheless, the economy is still vulnerable and restoration of debt and external sustainability depend on continued implementation of reforms. So if I go by the budget which the government has presented under the conditions imposed by International Monetary Fund, there are certain restrictions in terms of the revenue expenditure. But the good thing is that the focus is more to provide boost to the reform as well as to expedite more and more capital expenditure. Because at the end of the day, if the economy is recovering, then only you will be able to get rid of all the conditions imposed by Sri Lanka. So that is one part of your question. Now coming to the second part, what India has done or what India can do. In fact, in 2022, when the country was passing through bad phase, and we extended line of credit, not just for the fuel, but also for the various other items, that line of credit is still applicable. And in the budget, which was presented on February 1, 2025 in Lok Sabha, the government provided 300 crore rupees to support, for providing support to the Sri Lanka. So that if you see that 300 crore, that may be looking a very small number. But if you have to see the line of credit is spread over 5 year or 7 year, that is the most important thing. So going by the neighborhood first policy of Government of India, that policy is working by way of line of credit as well as the various other support like technical support, like infrastructure support, the providing capital for the infrastructure development in the country. So I believe that Government of India has some provision. That amount may be smaller, very less in the budget if you go by the exact number. But if you see the overall which has been done between 2022 and 2025, and that beyond 2025, that amount is very big, and that is going to help the country, the nation, to recover from what it has seen between 2022 and 2023.
Thank you. With that very positive note, definitely two countries will have to collaborate more and more. Line of credit is one such instrument. As I was explaining, still India is one of the top 2 or 3 investors in Sri Lanka, including in services, but still much perhaps needs to be done in that, which I will come to Mr. Geshan later on you. Maybe you can give some of the initiatives which are initiated by the Government of Sri Lanka. But let me go to my third panelist, Mr. Manoj Lal, who handles the Central Cottage Industries Corporation. What kind of experience you would like to draw from Indian experience of cottage industries doing so well, bringing artisans and going to the remotest places? Sri Lanka also has kind of a similar, the potential and other thing. Have you been ever collaborated or anything which has come on your radar on Sri Lanka? Or what kind of steps you think can boost India-Sri Lanka bilateral relations?
First of all, it's a privilege to be part of this discussion. I would like to thank Mr. Pathak and the esteemed panelists. We had the privilege of hosting Mr. Geshan at Cottage, and we were exploring an option of opening franchisee in Sri Lanka. So as a part of that, he had come with his minister, and that we are still working on it, what best shape we can give to it. So as we, I'll just come to this again, what we were just discussing about infrastructure and budget. If the Sri Lankan government has earmarked a certain budget in certain sectors, the ideal way to change the scenario is create more self-employment opportunities. So the best way is to create incubation sectors in each of the sectors which they have earmarked. And any country would like to invest in those incubation centers in all over Sri Lanka. So that's one thought which came to my mind offhand. And regarding the, like in India, we have over 60 lakh handicraft and handloom. I'm talking about the sector which we deal in. There will be over 60 lakh handicraft and handloom enterprises. So we deal in only the top end of the sector at Cottage. So how we deal is that we promote their products, market their products, we create a platform from them in various ways. So that's another way where the Sri Lankan entrepreneurs, if they can, whatever craft is there in their country, they can, market that worldwide. India is the nearest country. So if the government supports them with some budget, through the help of Cottage, we can market their products. We can offer them space in our outlets, or we could hold an exhibition for them. I'm talking about the real ground scenario, how it can happen. And we could do an exhibition through our network where all the Sri Lankan entrepreneurs, all or meaning a certain number, come over and display it and market, sell their products and make some money and go. We do it on a revenue sharing basis within the country. So that same model we could replicate it with any foreign partner. So, and about Cottage, I don't think everybody is aware or they have visited, I would like to show a small film capsule. So, whenever you permit. Yeah, so can you show that capsule about Cottage? एक वीडियो फिल्म है ना Cottage का? Yes. Yeah. Yes. The Cottage deals in handicraft and handloom. This is the exclusivity. We are part of Ministry of Textiles. And at any point of time, there will be about 14,000 products on display. And it is divided into 18 categories. And the showroom, this retail showroom is spread over for 50,000 square feet. We have similar outlets in other places in the country. So although we don't cater to that 60 lakhs figure, and the entire industry is divided into 455 products into 9 categories. So since the country is huge, the content is huge. So the same thing it could create an opportunity for the Sri Lankan entrepreneurs, youth, and they could It will help them creating revenues for themselves. So the ideal way, the easiest way is to open a franchisee if somebody willing to invest, or if you perhaps if in Sri Lanka at the international airport somebody would like to put in, that is the ideal place, and so many tourists are coming in, that's a captive audience who would like to buy something from Sri Lanka, Sri Lankan products, or even the cottage Indian products could be kept there. So this is what I have to say.
Thank you very much for not only this video. I think the first collaboration could be developing this kind of video for Sri Lanka. But indeed, in Sri Lanka there is a Sri Lanka Handicraft Development Council, and they have an Export Promotion Council as well. So maybe that could, Mr. Geshan can collaborate between these two, because they are very, very active as well. I have trained their women entrepreneurs, these artisans, way back in 2023 in their office. So they have a lot of women artisans in Sri Lanka. So that would be really, really interesting. Let me go now to the next question, and I will be putting one by one to all the panel. Infrastructure development is a very important thing for any country to develop and aspire. But that requires funding as well. For Sri Lanka, the challenge which started where people got or went against the government was because of cutting electricity. The subsidies were not able to be absorbed by the government, and the prices went. So energy security is very, very important, including for India. Now, when you are talking about developing infrastructure, including looking into energy development and other things, is there a possibility, or how do you see India and Sri Lanka, both of them, having a win-win in terms of infrastructure development? Especially India has a very well-developed railway network. Sri Lanka also has developed, but need to develop much more better. Road, Sri Lanka also has, but the way India, Mr. Modi's championship has gone with these expressways and highways is really remarkable, as well as corridors, energy, tourism. How do you think economic collaboration and cooperation can happen between these two countries? So first I will ask you.
When it comes to infrastructure development, one of the criticism was like after the end of the civil conflict, then there was a huge drive in development of those kind of infrastructure. The question was whether this was the relevant one. Sometimes people were criticizing that they are building roads to nowhere. That kind of thing was there. Whether this, whether they had a integrated kind of a plan. And one of those reasons why we went to this kind of mess was one of a Chinese driven, sorry to say that, but infrastructure development, which it's our fault, not China's fault, because we are the one who decided we need to have this. But as you said, one of the most worrying things is cost of electricity in Sri Lanka. Now it's I think India's cost is there are different costs in different areas in India, but generally I think the cost of electricity is half in India compared to Sri Lanka. So that itself has a huge advantage. When you produce something, the cost is high in Sri Lanka because of that. So, and this has been in pipeline for a long time to connect the grids of two countries so that we can get cheaper electricity from India. So, and I think the ADB has a feasibility study on the Sri Lankan side, and also I think that is going to happen. So the grid connectivity, the bridge, the overseas bridge I think, I mean, during, that was also not a new idea. During the time of British colonial rule, also they had a feasibility study. At that time, the cost was so exorbitant. Now with new technology, it's not so. But I think the land bridge might take time. But of course, this grid connectivity, I mean, it's on paper. I mean, they are in discussion, and I think some feasibility studies have already done. So that will happen, which in turn will reduce the electricity cost. And of course, I mean, since we have a huge wind potential in the eastern parts and the northern parts, then of course, ultimately we will be able to send electricity, maybe not to India, maybe to, like, the Indian grid is connected to other countries, maybe we can sell electricity to other countries, excess electricity, because right now we are producing, the demand and supply is now matched. But the problem is the generation cost is high because of thermal generation. And also there are, like, I mean, elements in Sri Lanka which are against kind of like solar. Now they are saying the grid instability is because of solar. So that has to be matched. Maybe we have to have some, I don't know, pipe, because we have to have storage capacity, maybe pump hydro or maybe batteries, different other technologies. Now different countries have different technology. Now they are talking about liquid metal batteries, so a lot of other kind of technologies are coming up. And so if we can reduce the cost and maybe we can change the generation mix, that would help in the short run, kind of like to bring down the electricity cost, which in turn will reduce the production cost of stuff in Sri Lanka. So I can see that as a possibility.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's a very interesting line, and going by the coastline which you have, I mean, the potential of wind power is very high, and we have an experiment of grid connectivity with Bangladesh. I mean, we are providing electricity from Jharkhand to Bangladesh, and the same can be replicated through the southern part of the country by the grid connectivity, and I am sure that some progress we will see in the next 4 to 5 years, because both the governments are willing to do that, and since we have the additional capacity, that additional capacity can be deployed on that. The other thing which we can do is providing technology for the wind, because new and renewable is this is the buzzword in the current scenario, and since we have this very long coastline, that wind energy is the possibility where you can be very successful, and that will also bring down the cost of electricity, cost of power, and that is in turn going to bring down the cost of manufacturing, and that will bring a kind of what we call as a cost advantage for you. At the same time, we have seen with the fuel, I mean, we are providing a large quantity of fuel. In fact, Indian oil is known as Indian Oil Sri Lanka, and they have a lot of petrol pumps in Sri Lanka. So we have been successful in that fuel thing. So one part of that energy we are fulfilling, the other part we have to do that. And the third thing which I believe that the port development, there have been some instances, there have been some controversy on the port development because of relation with some other country. So if both the governments are coming together on the port development, because the kind of coastline that is also giving a kind of advantage to India to use that as a gateway to the various other parts of the world to take the goods from here. So if we can work on the port development in your region, that will be win-win situation for you as well as for us. So these are the three areas which I think the cooperation, possibility of cooperation is very high.
Thank you. Manoj, you want to?
I'm seeing in terms of, how much employment will it create, what Shishir Saab said. So it offers enormous opportunity for the youth in that vicinity of that area wherever this development will take place. So the opportunities are tremendous.
Okay, thank you. We still have some time, so maybe I can open the floor if anybody has a question and a comment. Do you have extra mics? Or maybe you can introduce yourself a little bit and then put your question and a comment. If you have a particular question to a panelist, please address to them.
My name is Devang Chaturvedi, and I am an assistant professor. I teach journalism to students at Vivekananda Institute of Professional Studies. My question is multifaceted. The question essentially is that where are we looking at the trade between the two countries, between India and Sri Lanka? The problem is that, SARC is a failed, or I would say it's a failed initiative. SAFTA again has not worked. BIMSTEC has not worked again. And within BIMSTEC we have something that's called as BMIC, right? And apart from that, right, the only way forward that I see is extending line of credits. India extended a line of credit to 2024. The challenge here is that I'm also a researcher on African media, and I'd like to share something. When it comes to Africa, there is a concept of Pan-Africanism, and there is a concept of Afrocentrism, which talks about keeping Africa in the center and everything at the periphery. Unfortunately, we have not had something of that sort as far as the South Asian part of the world is concerned. So it's a suggestion, and it's also a question that where are we looking when it comes to trade? What is the way forward? That's one. And the suggestion is that why can't we develop, or why can't we have something, or why can't there be more of a trust factor as far as South Asia is concerned, and we can talk more about South Asian unity rather than this persistent skepticism which persists as far as the countries in South Asia are concerned.
Thank you. I'll take any more comment or... Okay, none. Then, good.
Hello sir, good afternoon. I am Shailendra Singh. I am Chief Manager GRIPCO. So being an agriculture professional, my question is agriculture centric. My question and my wish, I want comment from Mr. Counsellor that Sri Lankan GDP contributes 7%, agriculture GDP contributes 7% to the economy, whereas of India it is 18 point something like that, 18%. So what is your say on, sir, first thing that regarding this organic product which hit badly, brutally I can say, to the Sri Lankan economy, whether you are on the same footing still, otherwise to boost the budget. What I feel, all the kind of infra, right, then this shipping and all, my opinion is that you should first, the basic thing is to boost the agriculture, to come up to that level, because the children and the population is undernourished. Number two, I think hunger index is also something in between. So, what do you say about that?
Okay, thank you. Let's take these two questions. So the first question is on trade and how you think it can be promoted. So who wants to take the question first? Okay.
So, sir, thank you for this trade issue. I believe that the age of multilateralism has gone. We have to believe in bilateralism. So that is the one thing which we have to focus on, and that has given the result. Number two, when you talk about the South Asian unity, considering the two large economies who are neighbors to us, we do not have the kind of formal relationship in terms of transportation, in terms of movement. You cannot think about the South Asian unity. So we have to believe in a country-to-country relationship, whether we talk about India-Sri Lanka, whether we talk about India-Nepal, India-Myanmar, India-Bhutan, and India-Maldives. So that is the only solution at this moment we can think about. I mean, if my other co-panelists, if they agree or disagree, that's their view. And talking about the promotion of trade, no doubt about it, India has a huge capital goods capacity, and that capital goods can be supplied to the Sri Lanka because they need capital in terms of machinery and technology, and we have the potential to provide that. If we do that, we are already a surplus one. It's not a question of deficit or surplus. The issue is that what are the things which we are in a position to provide them at a cheaper cost. And since India and Sri Lanka has a rupee agreement, so that trade settlement, the dollar issue is not there. So that currency by currency settlement will also help the trade. So these are 2-3 things which I believe that bilateral relationship with India will help to grow. I hope I have answered the question. Thank you very much.
Even though the ISFTA agreement was the first for India and first for Sri Lanka, but still we have operational issues as even now. And of course matters relating to standardization, and so we were in discussion, like 14 rounds happened in the ETA, ESCAP negotiation, and then the government changed, so we are waiting for a policy decision regarding the resumption of ECTA, ESCAP, and also there is a bilateral investment treaty, and so these things would also help for this, because then we can have like in those like a mutual recognition agreements and that kind of stuff for standardization problems. And yes, even though on paper it's rosy, but in practice there are a lot of operational issues. That's the thing, and we are hoping to resolve those things amicably. Yeah, that's the thing.
Thank you. There was one question on agriculture.
That's a no-brainer. Sri Lanka was an agricultural country for years, and we were able to we were a self-sufficient country. Even in Sri Lanka, this is politically maybe wrong, but because of the executive presidency, if one mentally disturbed person comes to make the decision, then of course you are in trouble. So that's the thing. And because of those policy decisions, this thing happened. It's a no-brainer that Sri Lanka has like 200 varieties of rice. So we were an agriculture nation, and some rices are good for some diseases. So we had that tradition, and we still have it. So you're right, we have to improve our agriculture, and strangely, if you look at the stat, even though it's a developing country, it has the characteristics of a developed country. Like you have a huge service sector, a small agriculture sector, so that's the thing. Of course, we need to improve our agriculture, no doubt about that.
Any more question or comment from anywhere? Okay, I see none. So I won't summarize, but some of my pointers on these questions, especially on the infrastructure development, and we talk more on energy. I think that is an area where one needs to collaborate between India and Sri Lanka more. And it's not only over now, the technology has come that you have an underwater sea cabling through which you can go. Actually, ESCAP, we have been working a lot on cross-border electricity trade for the energy security, and especially on the renewables. There are models where India and Sri Lanka also can collaborate on the solar, because ISA, International Solar Alliance, is in India, and they have been working a lot. And nowadays these models have come where these schools, hospitals and government buildings on top floor and whatever areas you can have those solar panels who can make your self-sustained buildings, bringing in the green. Definitely we have talked on the wind energy, so I won't talk about that. But yeah, reliance on the thermal, which is either because of the coal or oil, because these are external factors which is beyond the control of a country. And therefore in that, if there could be some collaboration and cooperation between India and Sri Lanka, that would be really, really desirable. On trade, to be very honest, I agree, it is more of a bilateral. Because you cannot equate SARC and BIMSTEC together, right? SARC, one can understand, it's a I always say it's a Bollywood movie, like hero and heroine. One hero is India sometimes, and heroine is Pakistan. So you have love and hate. Sometimes, you know, you will be all gaga, or sometimes you will not be talking. Or villain is all of us. Villain is all of us, because we are the ones who are creating this narrative, including the media, right? We talk a lot in negative, but we don't talk about positives. Like if you see SARC, and I can give you one example which is very passionately I deal with it. There was no movement in SARC for the last couple of years. But when COVID came, you would see that the SARC COVID fund which was established within 15 days. And the summit leaders talked to themselves even virtually. And if you look at the Google or a history, that was the first regional trading bloc which reacted in this way. Even ASEAN came later. Forget about NAFTA and others. So the political will is there. It's mostly perhaps that the leaders also realize in their heart that cooperation, collaboration is good, but there is a political narrative. You need to be in the government, all sides, whether it is Sri Lanka or India or Pakistan. And so this narrative continue. But how do we change that? And that can be changed through media, people-to-people contact. Every year I travel to Pakistan. I mean, that's my area. I work in South Asia. The warmth which I get there, and those people, they tell me about their stories when they have come to India and what kind of warmth they received. So that can be a game changer, because they can become perhaps. The other thing which I would like to say is SARC is also a problematic in terms of trade, because there are many sectors where countries are competing with each other. If you take textile, Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka and now Nepal are competing with each other. Of course, if you go deeper into it, the textile are separate. One is branded, another is unbranded, one is knitwear. They specialize in that, but generally the fear is, and we have not reaped the benefit of being a supply chain to each other in South Asia. And that is what has really made us not integrate with each other, because the fear, let's take for automobile. No country other than India is a manufacturer of largest automobile. We can be the global player in the world, but if you see SAFTA, the entire automobile is in the negative list of all the countries. Valid reason, because that is the sector where the revenue collection is highest. The duties are higher. But when you started 2006 and now we are in 2025, so it's almost 20 years now, still if you have that fear psychosis, but the government requires financing for their overall development, and every government need to move forward. Like India reduced the duties, but came with GST, came with innovative area, digitalization of the taxes so that the loopholes, and this is what the other countries in South Asia or BIMSTEC need to learn. BIMSTEC, there is no Pakistan, but still it's no mover. Honestly, I know India is not a mover, India doesn't want to move, because in BIMSTEC, if you see the sensitive list of the countries, especially from the South Asia, is a larger negative list than SAFTA. So what do I gain in the market access? I will end up giving more. So that also has become a non-starter. So I agree with Mr. Sinha. You need to look into the bilateral mode. And it is the bilateral, and definitely yes, non-tariff barriers are the biggest impediments. I remember long back when we had this Sri Lanka Standard Institute and BIS MOU way back in 78 items which were on the regulatory mechanism at that moment of time, they gave it to India. But that kind of mechanism need to be developed and need to be worked, because it's the non-tariff barriers which are impeding the trade and not really the tariffs. So there is a lot which needs to be done, but let me thank profoundly all the panelists for being patient with me, answering to the question of me as well as the floor. Thank you everyone, and give them a round of applause for them.
Thank you, sir. Thank you all our panelists for this engaging discussion. I would request Lieutenant General Lumba and Mr. Bankapur, please be on stage. Can we have the speaker and panelist, please? We would like.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
To deliver the vote of thanks, I now invite Dr. Naresh Bana, Vice Chairman, ISCCI, on the stage. Can we have Mr. Bana on the stage?
Good afternoon, everyone. I know as we move late in the afternoon, but yes, this is one of the most important responsibility which I have to discharge. And honorable dignitaries, esteemed guests, and dear friends, as we conclude the remarkable Indo-Sri Lanka Cooperation Summit 2025, it is my privilege to extend a heartfelt vote of thanks to all of those who have contributed to its success. First and foremost, our chief guest, Honorable Governor of Mizoram, General Dr. Vijay Kumar Singh, PVSM, AVSM, YSM, for agreeing to be the chief guest and give away the first edition of our Maitrishri Awards. A special thanks to the Honorable Minister Counsellor Commercial, Mr. Geshan, and his unflinching and through support, and having been part of all the channels, sessions and discussions that enriched our understanding of bilateral cooperation and vision for the future. Special thanks to him. Then your wisdom, sir, has inspired new avenues for collaboration. We are grateful to all the former ambassadors, diplomats, government and military officers, senior scientists and industry leaders who could join us and have strengthened the spirit of partnership between our two nations. Your presence reaffirms our shared commitment to economic growth, trade and cultural exchange. I extend my sincere appreciation to the MD CRIBCO, Mr. M.R. Sharma and entire board of directors and entire team who supported us in organizing this event, our sponsors, and of course the volunteers for their tireless efforts in making this event seamless and impactful. And most importantly, the audience, all of you, without whom this summit would not have been possible. Lastly, a big thank you to our media representatives for their engagement and support. Your participation ensures that the dialogue initiated today will translate into meaningful action soon. Let's continue fostering and enduring friendship between India and Sri Lanka. Wishing you all a very pleasant evening. Thank you. Namaste. Jai Hind. there is a cup of tea catered. So before you depart, a cup of tea for the journey is laid out. Please. Thank you very much. Thank you once again.